Hello, my name is Kamilla Elliott and I am Professor of Literature and Media in the Department of English Literature and Creative Writing. This means I'm interested in literature's relationship to other media, like poetry in relation to painting in the 18th century, or literature illustrated in the 19th, or literature adapted to the stage, to television, to film, or what's happening to literature in other media now, especially with new media in the 21st century. But that's not what I'm going to talk to you about today, although you'll see some of my interest in literature and pictures in that I've made a pictorial film for you here. I want to talk to you today about my favorite poet, who is Emily Dickinson. One of the things I love about Emily Dickinson is that she is able to take familiar subjects, familiar topics, and present them to me in ways that I've never thought of before. And yet at the same time, I recognize that somewhere within me, I did see these things or feel these things, but I wasn't able to express them or even acknowledge them consciously. And that is in this poem here on the left. This is 2 stanzas of a longer poem. That is her definition of what a poet did for her as well. This was a poet. It is that distills amazing sense from ordinary meanings and at are so immense from the familiar species that perish by the door, we wonder it was not ourselves arrested it before. The idea that a poet is able to take ordinary words, ordinary subjects, and create amazing ways of thinking, feeling, and sensing. Sensing isn't just the 5 senses, it's the brain, the mind, the sense of the mind, but also the 6th sense, the intuition. And the skilled poet is able to create greater levels of awareness in other people. And yet, at the same time, we wonder it was not ourselves arrested it before, is able to bring out things that we might unconsciously have experienced or thought. The metaphor here is of perfume as well. The flowers you don't bother to cultivate, they just grow by the door and they die because you don't take care of them. But these are the familiar species, and the poet's able to take flowers that people didn't think had any use at all and make amazing perfume out of them. Well, because it's summer, I'm going to choose a rather whimsical poem that she wrote about bees, getting us to look at bees in a new way, but again to recognize what we've already seen but perhaps haven't put into words. The first line is quite startling. Bees are black with gilt surcingles. They're not black and yellow striped. They put on these gilt, not gold, kind of gaudy, showy surcingles. You'll see a surcingle there in that picture of a horse. It's a belt that goes around the body of a horse. And I found the one that looked the most guilty I could on the blackest horse I could find, just by way of juxtaposition here. She sees them here as swaggering, and she's watched how they move. If I say make a beeline, that isn't really as the crow flies. If you look at the way bees fly, it's very sort of swirly, side to side and back and forth. And she sees this as a kind of buccaneering buzz. I tried to find a photograph of the bee that looked most like the pirate possibly could. I think it's not that far off, really. But this idea of these bees as buccaneers, not just in the way they move, but in the way they go about pillaging flowers. They go here and there and everywhere, gathering nectar and spreading pollen around. They are like pirates. They are going all over nature and collecting things. Obviously, in the process, they are pollinating, probably quite unconsciously. I found this video here to illustrate some of the movement here. It's a lovely slow motion video here that shows them swaggering, moving around, bumping into each other. There's a kind of drunkenness. Emily Dickinson often wrote about bees as if they were drunk, and yet they are very relaxed and confident in their movements. And then the final line of the first stanza is, and subsist on fuzz. There's a sense in which bees are fuzz, they're fuzzy, but there's also the fuzz of the pollen. And even though this isn't what they're actually consuming, this is a vital part of what they're doing, which is spreading the fuzz, spreading the pollen around. So you can look at this as a light-hearted, whimsical re-examination of bees, or we can think about it more seriously in terms of ecology and the environment and nature. And if we look at the second and final stanza of the poem, she is thinking about the role that bees have. Fuzz ordained, not fuzz contingent, right? There's something that's not randomly happening, but there is something ordained about this process in which the fuzzy bees pick up the fuzz of the pollen and create, in a way, a whole ecosystem, a whole world that is dependent on them. I love the way that the line "Marrows of the hill" takes the inside and puts it outside. So the marrow is usually something at the very core, at the heart of something like the bone. And yet the bees are sort of traveling, foraging, buccaneering marrows that go around taking the essence from the hill and spreading it around so that many essences mix together and we have this ecosystem. And then Dickinson is known for celebrating the defiance and the power of the little and the tiny. So these are jugs, they're carrying nectar, and even if the whole universe fractured, it couldn't make them spill or jar or tip them from their purpose. So that's what I wanted to share with you on this summer day, where there are bees in every photograph that I take of flowers, and I hope you have a good summer, and we look forward to seeing you soon.